Alright, hello guys. I just wanted to do a video in defense of video games. This is video 14 of my daily video challenge. And I think video games, okay, on one side they've been over-defended, and I don't want to hit all the points that everybody always hits of they're good for your hand-eye coordination and they work out your thumbs and blah blah blah. I don't know. I think those are kind of weak points. They have some validity, but I don't like saying things that everybody says. So really, the defense I want to make of video games is more kind of along the lines of the necessity of play, and a lot of that comes from ideas that I've picked up listening to Jordan Peterson and his research on Jean Piaget's studies of rats and play among rats, and how if you deprive a rat of play and don't properly socialize them, then they end up with mental and social impairments, which is kind of interesting. And then if a child doesn't, if a developing child is deprived of play and then ends up antisocial, the chances of them ending up in jail later on in life go way up. But I guess that's kind of beside the point, because most video games are solo. Though a lot of the fondest memories I've had of video games are playing them with cousins and brothers and sisters, which is cool. I think it's a really awesome way to play, because you can take insane risks and see the consequences without having high consequences, which we need that, I think. Well, I don't know, maybe some people disagree, maybe people think that would lead people to take unnecessary risks, but I really don't think it does, because there's a lot of people with social anxiety and whatever that spend a lot of time in video games because there's really actually very little risk. It's a risk that we can handle, and I think we can take lessons from that as well. The reason video games are so powerful and so addictive, you could say, though I wouldn't say addictive is the right word, but addiction is a word that most of us don't even understand. But the reason video games are so powerful and so playable is because they get the incentives right, and that's what I really think is going on. It's they're getting the incentives right. They're setting things up in a way that people want to play, and if I really think it's possible for work environments to be set up in that way, for maybe even families and life to be set up in that way. And then, I don't know, I think there's a lesson to be taken from that. And then, at the same time, there's a lot of that's unrealistic, that I understand. But the thing about playing video games, a lot of the older generation, when video games were coming out and becoming popular, would always have these platitudes like, oh, it's rotting out your brain, and I don't think that's fair. I think even from a scientific standpoint, that's not really a fair assessment. But I'm not really arguing the scientific side of it. The power in video games for me, and maybe the skill it's given me, is the skill of mastering a skill. And I think that's really cool. Especially, like, I've realized, like, when I switch from one video game to another, or play with different controls, which is a fun thing to try. It's like learning a different instrument. In fact, I'd say it's very, very similar to learning a different instrument. I would almost go so far as to say that learning a different instrument utilizes the same skills as playing a new video game. A lot of people might get mad at me for that, and you can comment below if you disagree, and I will listen and try to understand your position. But no, I really think it is. I've learned 3 different instruments, and 4 if you count euphonium, which, I mean, the instruments I learned were very similar, but not exactly the same. And to me, it was very, very much similar to playing different video games. In fact, just the skill of learning an instrument in itself, to me, is very similar to the skill of learning to play a video game. And I think it's a good skill. And I know different people who haven't played video games, like, weren't allowed to. In fact, so when I was little, I wasn't allowed to play video games because my mom didn't like them, and she thought those same things. That, you know, they waste your time and they rot your brain out and whatever. And so I would play at my cousin's house whenever I got the chance, which wasn't very often. And finally, one time, our cousins left an old Xbox at our house, which I still have. I was just playing on it the other day, and it's funny to see people who haven't been allowed to at all, because really, to me, they're missing something. Now it depends, because people, I mean, I'm not saying, like, hard and fast, if you haven't played video games, you're completely incompetent, because there's other skills you can learn, but there's that skill that comes with mastering video games, that if you're deprived of that, I think it makes it harder to master other things. And a lot of that, I think I have to be fair and say that a lot of that is related to IQ, because someone with higher IQ is going to be faster at learning complex tasks. But so maybe the argument I'm making is that video games can raise your IQ, though I definitely don't have the authority to say anything like that. And from what I've learned, IQ is very hard, as in nobody has figured out an effective way to actually change IQ. But to me, I mean, those principles carry across, and that's the point I'm making, is like, you master a video game, and I think it makes you faster mastering an instrument or mastering an occupation even. And I think that's cool, and I think that's good. And so you can disagree with me if you want, and I'll battle it out with you in the comments. I'll try to be nice. So another cool aspect of video games is the different aspects of, like, economics. I think that's really cool. I just enjoy looking at economics and psychology in general. But with video games, like my little brother and I were looking at RuneScape, and they've got a free market there called the Grand Exchange, and people buy and sell, anything and everything. He's got this other game he's playing called Warframe, and we were looking at kind of the economics of that and what makes the prices fluctuate and but with RuneScape it's kind of interesting because the raw materials were more expensive, and then people would pay less for processed materials, which it seems like putting labor into something in real life would make it worth more. But the thing about RuneScape is the incentive structure was set up in such a way that people were trying to get XP, trying to get experience, and so they were trying to do more labor, and therefore a raw material was worth more to them than a material that couldn't be turned into anything. And so that's, I don't know, that's something that's kind of just fun to look at and see, and every game has aspects of that. Has an economic element, and especially in multiplayer games, and it's cool. It's just cool to watch, and I think there's more credit to be given than we give, and at the same time, you can get lost in it. You can get lost in a lot of different things, and so yeah, that's probably not a good idea to spend too much time on any one thing. But I hesitate to say that video games are much different from, people are going to hate me for this, much different from music. I have a brother who spent a lot of his free time playing piano, and is an amazing piano player because of it. And yeah, that is probably a more useful skill than video games. But as far as the mental work and all that, I really don't think it's a lot different. And I think there's more to be learned from video games, and more skills that we could apply in our lives from video games. And I think we could also look at the psychology and incentive structures of video games and see if we can implement those in our lives as well to make the game more enjoyable for everyone. And so that's what I got today. Thanks for watching. You can like, share, comment, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Kelson Out Loud, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.